Look at me. Guapa. What do you see? Take a few moments. Let it sit in. Now take a look at me again. Who do you perceive me to be? Take a few moments. Let it sink in. Now, let me fill in details for you. I am from a small town called Lansing, Michigan. I am a son of an automotive manufacturing father and a mother who worked to shape our city's housing authority. I am a product of a public school education, a fine public school called Lansing Everett, to be exact. A school that was made great because our city was thriving. It was thriving on an economy that was powered by the automotive industry, a government workforce, and a university staff. A middle-class community dedicated and invested in their children and their school system. A school system that got me into one of the finest public institutions in all the land, the University of Michigan. Known for producing fine intellects, to which I am now proud to call myself a Michigan man. A made man. A man made through the halls of a public school for secondary and post-secondary education that allowed me to, let's fast forward, be an invited guest to China. First class all the way, champagne from the moment that I sat in my 180-degree reclined seat. Whew, was that champagne good. That champagne got me all the way to landing in China, where I arrived at my gate to be escorted to my chauffeur-driven car, where I was taken to my hotel to receive another glass of champagne to say, welcome, Mr. Muse. Settle in. For you see, settle in for a week of amazingness, a week full of meetings with business leaders, innovators, thought leaders, change agents, and of course, more champagne and more multi-course dinners and more access, private access, of course, front row seats, only the best, separate entrance, private entrance, oh, more lobster and oh, more champagne and oh, a special section of the Great Wall of China all to myself. Ooh, was I special? It felt great. It felt amazing. And of course, there was more champagne and more lobster. I'm just feeling so good. But then I also noticed there was a separation that was happening, a separation from the general society, a separation from the knowing that there was others living a different existence that I was experiencing in that moment. This separation, was it the champagne that was blinding me from this separation? Oh, well. Time to go back to New York City, where I now reside. Obviously, I flew first class. Obviously, there was champagne there, too, as well. One glass. Okay, maybe two glasses. Okay, maybe three glasses, but that's beside the point. I was feeling good. Life was well. I was feeling high on life, and then I arrived, and then I landed, and then I call my friend, and I tell him, still a little high on life and the champagne, how wonderful my trip to China was. And then he asked me one simple question. He said, Mike, was your plane crowded? I paused, and I thought about it for a moment. And I responded with disappointment. I don't know. I never looked back. It was sobering. It was uncomfortable. How could a Michigan-made, Midwest, son of a middle-class family never look back? I was shaped in the understanding that understand my comforts, understand who I am, but also welcoming others into our homes as equal. Using this as a moral compass to guide me through life, to knowing that the privileged spaces that I exist in, that there is some people on the other side living a different existence. So I wrestled with this notion of never looking back. I was uncomfortable with this notion of never looking back. I asked myself internally with conflict, how, Mike, how could you not look back? It just didn't sit well with a guy like me. But thank God, as luck would have it, the summer had just arrived, and it's time to pack my weekend bags as an invited guest to the Hamptons. More revelry, more champagne, more fun, more beach, more champagne, and of course, more conversations with my friend and his family. So we're sitting in his backyard, poolside, obviously having a glass of champagne, and pontificating on the meaning of life, as we always do. And in that moment of pontification, he goes on to tell me, he says, hey, Mike, listen, we finally found a school for my 6-year-old daughter. I said, that's amazing. Then he goes on to tell me that the cost of tuition is $30,000. Now, externally, I'm kind of keeping it cool, but on the inside, I'm screaming, what the $30,000, but I'm saying, you know what? That's the normal rate for tuition that my friends of his class usually spend for their tuition. But eternally, what made me scream, what the again, was he told me that his daughter was going to learn coding. I lost it. I lost it right there. I said, what do you mean that your 6-year-old daughter is going to learn through coding, critical analysis, problem solving, to be solution-oriented, critical thinking, all the tools that I didn't learn until I entered the College of Engineering at the University of Michigan? And then it hit me right there. My visceral reaction was in response to part my China experience, coupled with what I was hearing in the Hamptons. I connected the dots. It was class that was bothering me. No, not in the traditional social economical structure of class, the way that we normally think about it, but in the sense of what class produces. So for you see, you can sit there with your $30,000 primary education and say that you've arrived, that you've made it, and that you're successful, and that you work hard. Didn't you? Moreover, why not you? While sitting there, I'm standing next to them, and they're asking me these questions, and I'm saying, yes, I have arrived, I made it, I am successful. But because I went to a top public school that was powered by a local economy. But what about those students who are growing up in neighborhoods of abandoned buildings? What about those students who are growing up in neighborhoods of shuttered homes? What about those children who are growing up in neighborhoods of high unemployment due to a shrinking economy? How can their community sustain itself? How can their community support their school system? How can their community support them to go to a higher education to put them on the path to the good life? For you see, one cannot look back and have the knowledge of not looking back to understand one's seat of privilege without taking a look and asking how somebody has yet to take that seat of privilege. Therefore, it's easy, and I mean it's easy, to blame them for their lack of personal responsibility without taking into question your own unconscious bias to how you arrived to your position of success. So I say, put the glass of champagne down, sober up, look back, and understand the role that we play as a collective society in allowing everyone the chance, and I say the chance, to be leaders and best. Yes, you work hard. We all do. But understand your seat of privilege. Understand what privilege looks like. Understand what privilege feels like. And understand that privilege begets privilege. No, I'm not saying privilege is a first-class seat. It's more nuanced than that. It's more simple than that. I'm not saying privilege is your fancy address. No, I'm not saying that. Privilege is more simple than that. Privilege is universal. Privilege is local. Privilege is having a home to call your own every day that you know is yours. Privilege is having food on the table every day that you go have a meal. Privilege is owning a book by the age of 5 years old. Privilege Privilege is having a park to go to where you can play, where you can explore, where you can dream of being an astronaut in space while having no limitations placed on you on Earth, and a community that supports you in getting there. That's privilege. So, my friends, as you sit and you have a taste and a glass of the good life, please drink. But remember how you really were able to fly. Cheers.